Hello and welcome to the third edition of Tin Media's problem solving webinar series. A very good evening to all of you. I'm very happy to see all of you online, and thank you so much for spending time with us. I can see a lot more people are joining in. Really appreciate your taking your time to join us. So there are more people are joining in, so let's wait for maybe a couple of seconds more. All right, so today we are talking about reinvent your business through domestic tourism, the digital way, part 2. So many of you might be thinking, why part 2? The reason being, it's such an important and wide subject we can't cover in one episode, as we had a lot of questions last time. We thought that we should get one more episode to answer all the questions. So here we are back on public demand. So those who are new to Tin Media, we are Malaysia's homegrown travel trade, digital media, focus on hospitality and tourism. We believe that we can help guide the tourism industry to go digital and be relevant in today's time. My name is Prashant Chandra. You can call me PC, and I'll be your moderator today. And I'm very excited to be hosting this session today. So Tin Media has actually come up with a series of webinars called the Problem Solving Series, which is been organized on a weekly basis with intention to educate and help the tourism industry players about the importance of digitalization in your business, whether it is for products or destinations or service providers, by having industry leaders from various sectors to share their experience, advices in front of a live audience like you. So we would like to especially thank all of you to encourage us to discuss on such relevant topics, which is really helpful to the growth of our industry. And some of the questions you want us to ask is already included in today's session. And in today's webinar, we will be talking about domestic tourism opportunities and challenges Malaysia has. So generally, Malaysia is a fortunate position to having already a quite established domestic tourism market, although it was never prioritized by many. And it is true that domestic travelers generally don't have deep pockets if compared to the international travelers. The market has such a highly potential if you ensure value for money and affordability of your offerings. So local tourism organizations, attractions, and operators may need to rethink their offerings and their pricing. Typical ways of promotion of 10-15% discount kind of thing won't work anymore in today's scenario. You need to rethink of giving travelers a real value for money. So this is an opportunity to support back to our local economy through domestic tourism, not only for COVID-19 recovery, but it is for a long term. So it's been proven around the world in many countries that domestic tourism can clearly support economic revival of local communities. So in absence of international tourists, it will be a huge challenge at today's time, but also it's an opportunity for us. If we manage to establish a new range of innovative domestic tourism products, then when those foreign visitors who are allowed to return, most likely, the one who return will be the short haul destinations. So we can offer them this new range of products and keep them coming back to us for more unique experiences. Towards the end of the session, I will give you top 6 reasons for you to believe that domestic tourism will witness the strongest recovery. For that, you will need to wait till the end. Yeah. Before that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a panel of experts, and you have your expertise in your own areas. So we request each one of you to voice out your opinions, feedbacks in the comment section below, so that we have a wide range of subject to discuss and brainstorm and help in problem solving. Right? So the panelists are here today to share their experience, which will surely benefit you to venture into such a lucrative market, which is domestic market. So today we have 2 very important people on our panel. I will shortly introduce you to them. before I move on, let me request all the viewers to make it more interactive by using the comment section below. You can post all your questions, suggestions you have in your mind. We may not have enough time to respond to each and every question, but we will try to do as much as we can. And if you don't get your answers during this webinar, we will surely follow it up afterwards. And one more important thing, we would like to request each one of you to share today's webinar with your social network. Please share it with your timeline, your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your WhatsApp groups, your Facebook groups, so that more people can watch this. So without any further delay, let me introduce our super special panel of experts. And let me give you a brief on about them. Then we will move on to the panel discussion. So first speaker we have is Dr. Nico Tan. He has helped businesses and enterprises in digitalization journeys. And he's currently working as a Vice President of Marketing of Genting Malaysia Berhad. He specializes in technology adoption and commercialization models and applies to the organization of different sizes. Second speaker we have is Mr. Uzaidy Udanis. He's a very prominent figure in Malaysian tourism industry. He is the president of Malaysian Inbound Tourism Association, MITA. He's also a president of Malaysian Tourism Council. For those who are just logged in, a very warm welcome. Please share this live feed on your Facebook, on your WhatsApp groups, and so that more people can watch this. All right, so let's move on to our panel. Let me okay. So we have Dr. Nico. Yeah, let me ask Dr. Nico. Let me start with Dr. Nico. Yeah, all right. So tell us a bit about yourself and how much the world has changed for you during this COVID, and any special updates you have from Resort World Genting. If you'd like to give us, yeah,
an update. Okay. Well, first and foremost, hello everyone. Thank you for logging in tonight, for spending, your time with us. I always say time is the most valuable element in the world. You cannot buy it. So spending it with us means you wanted to know more, right? We learn from you, you learn from us. So I'm basically, obviously I'm not Malaysian, but I've lived in your country for about 8 years now. I love your country. I believe that your country is positioned geographically good among the rest of Southeast Asian nations. Therefore, tourism, it became a hub if you think about it, right? And that's why you've been having an influx of tourists the past few years, and that's good. And this thing happened. Of course, it changed the entire, not just Malaysia, I guess the entire world, right? And how much it has changed me? Well, obviously, being stuck at home for a month and a half, it makes me crazy lah, just to stay here, right? But it forced me to really look into, reflect of what life would be after this. And I think all of us are at that point in time where everybody started thinking, okay, this is the new norm. This is the new normal now. Wearing masks. When I see people wearing masks on streets right now, who would have thought that mask is, something that is necessary now? People are afraid if you don't have one. Who knows? One of these days it becomes a fashion item. We don't know, right? But it's something that has changed us fundamentally as human beings. In the past, when SARS happened, every pandemic, even if you do your own literature review, you Google this, how has pandemics changed people, right? In the past, it changed us from thinking of ourselves, from being capitalists. I think we're now at a stage where we're a bit more socialist. We're thinking about people, other people, because this pandemic did not only affect one group of people, it affected all of us. Whether you're rich, you're poor, all of us were forced into this situation. So I think from the perspective of change, the world has changed. But change sometimes is also good, right? If you look at it from the other way. I look at it from the perspective of, yes, there are challenges, but there's also opportunities around us. The fact that remote working or working remote is now an option for most people in these parts of the world where technology adoption is not really that high in terms of working. You know, we as human beings, in my research before, as a background, that's my specialization. I did my doctorate and focus on technology adoption models, focusing on Malaysian market, right? One thing about the Malaysian market is that we're Asians for some reason. We like to get together. You see, we like the physical contact. Therefore, working remote is something that is not for everybody as a people, right? But because we are forced, and especially those older group of people who are not really, you know, they're exposed to technology, but they're the last people you know who would accept technology, right? Who is the first one to say, I don't want to use it, right? Are now being forced to use and have realized that, oh, it's so easy to use. That changes a lot of things, because this group of people are the decision makers right now in terms of the economy and the, you know, young kids can say all they want, right? But they do not decide where the business would go. But this group of people who are what I call the laggards, right, are now faced with the reality that they have been exposed. They were forced to use technology because they're trapped at their homes. And now they're saying, hey, you know, it's so easy to use. Why not do this? Why not I change my business model? Why do I need to pay for electricity at the office? If you think about it simplistically, right? So I think that has become some of the thought process I have these days. You know, I don't know what the end outcome would be, but I do know that we're not going to go back to the way it was. Definitely not the way it was. Good or bad, up for debate.
Absolutely, it's very true, Dr. Nico. I mean, the whole world has changed after this pandemic. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Mr. Huzaidi. Tell us a bit about, you know, how do you feel about the world has changed, and what is your perspective?
Thank you, PC. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to you to be able to, you know, invited me and also be able to meet Dr. Nico. I heard a lot about you, but I never met you before.
So I hope it's good. Nothing bad, I hope.
I'm so privileged during this COVID-19 be able to, you know, to meet you in person. In person. All right. Well, actually, PC, as you know, the tourism industry is badly hit by the, you know, pandemic of COVID-19, and a lot of us having difficulty. In fact, I think most of us having difficulty to sustain our tourism business due to this crisis. And as you know, the tourism industry is very important for Malaysian economy. And last year alone, the tourism industry has contributed to more than 13% to GDP, gross domestic product of Malaysia. And the industry brought in more than 84 billions in terms of foreign direct investment or tourist receipt. And you know, I was surprised last week. I got to know that more than 640,000 out of 1.2 million SMS or small medium company are involved in tourism here in Malaysia, and this provide more than 4.7 million jobs opportunities to Malaysians. So for the past 4 weeks, I had a very rare experience or opportunities and engaged a lot of our tourism industry players. And I've been invited with so many virtual events, engaged similar as like you, PC here. And I can feel the energy out there. It's much better than what we read in Facebook or in newspaper or internet. So I wish the industry players, you don't have to feel very badly due to the coronavirus. This is actually a disruption, and it's not unprecedented. We had so many disruptions before coronavirus. Of course, coronavirus is one of the worst, but we had before. We had our SARS, we had our H1N1, we had our case, we had our MH370, we had a lot of disruptions. We had our even the internet thing is the disruptions to our tourism players business. But because of our country, Malaysia is so blessed with all the tourism assets, with the tourism products, so many tourism products, and the people are so good. So we must give a hope now. We must give a hope, a chance and a possibility of a change. Which, you know, we hope that we can reset tourism. And with this session, I hope be able to engage with your audience and we can share some experience, some suggestions, and maybe we can improve ourselves. We have to be together, and I'm looking forward to a new world. We are now in a new world. For those who think that we have to go back to the old style, the old method, the old business style, it won't be happen. We will be getting more disappointed. But we hope that with new world, we can reset tourism, and all of us, especially our ecosystem of tourism, can be set correctly, and everybody will benefit. So I have a very high hopes after post-COVID. PC.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Zaidi. Yeah, I mean, I love the energy, and I think it's time to reset the tourism. Yeah, that's correctly said. Now let's move on to Dr. Nico. So just we are wondering, like, how was your domestic tourism pre-COVID in Resort World Genting, and how many percentage of your visitors were domestic, and what is the scenario like?
Oh, okay. So the thing about Genting is that it's a household brand. Everybody knows Genting, whether it's your grandparents, it's your parents, or it's you. I'm definitely sure that majority of Malaysians know who, where, what is Genting, right? We know what the products are there. You guys know that we have been opening a lot of new assets. We have a mall, we have the premium outlet, we have the upcoming theme park, right? Indoor, it's open. Outdoor, if COVID did not happen, we would have opened already. I'm sure of that, right? But we just need to wait for that until this is over, or safe for everyone. But I think our market in general is really predominantly domestic anyway, right? Every day people come up for a short holiday. It's the only, less than 55 minutes from Kuala Lumpur, you're already at a very cold place. Just to give you some comparisons, I'm from the Philippines, you see. The equivalent of Genting to the Philippines, which is a cold place, right, is 5 hours drive from, let's say, Manila, which is the Kuala Lumpur. Here, you have 55 minutes only. And guess what? Our highest mountain there is only half the size of the mountain of Genting. And it takes us 5 hours. You guys have access to it. Therefore, because accessibility is easy, so our market, the domestic market, really is our core market. I don't need to think about, the farthest I could go is my drive-through markets, which is drive-in, which is Singapore's, right? They drive from Singapore, cross the border, come to us, they're there. It's the coldest place you could ever be in Southeast Asia. The weather doesn't change, and that's the value proposition then. It's the value proposition now, right? And it will always be unless there's climate change, right? So if there's a percentage, I would say majority. Majority could be, 80, 90, because the international market that comes in, when they come, it's a side trip. They will come anyway, right? But in terms of the day-to-day, it will really be the domestic market lah. Pre-COVID, a lot. COVID, of course, we're shut down. There's no visitors. Post-COVID, definitely, it's going to be domestic market. I don't expect a lot of international. Why? Because that's out of our control. If Mr. Tony Fernandez decide not to fly his planes, so what can other people do, right? If Malaysian Airlines decided not to fly, so the players in Malaysia in the tourism industry can't do anything about that. It's beyond our control. Do you think people will swim over the seas? No, right? So definitely, we must factor that out in thinking of the market. The market really is domestic at the end of the day, and you have 30 million people. That's a lot of money. If you think about it, one ringgit each, that's 30 million already. Right?
Absolutely. So, yeah. Right. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nico. Just very good insight. So those who are logging in, just want to say thank you for logging in. I can see, hi, Tejo Iskandar, Pa Tejo all the way from Indonesia. You have a lot of people are joining in. Hi, Johnny. Hi, Peggy. Hi, guys. Hi, Wind. Hi, Ryan. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. All right, so let me go back to Mr. Uzaidi. What are the important steps a tour operator should take to venture into domestic tourism, according to you?
Well, actually, PC, we have estimate about 6,000 or more than 6,000 travel agents registered in MOTAC. These are registered travel agents, or tour operators, or DMCs. but there are only few of them who are promoting domestic. Only few of them are promoting inbound. Most of us are promoting outbound. And probably they promote Cebu, they promote Manila, they promote they promote all those Gentings, Singapore, and even our tourists are well sought after in Japanese inbound market, whereas we are number 2 in Japanese inbound market there. And there's one street in Korea or Seoul, and almost everybody in the shops, they can speak Malay. They say, mari abang, murah, mari abang, murah. So that shows that we are producer, we are tourist producer, we produce tourists to the world. So, but not many of us, especially tour operator or travel agents, really go into domestic, domestic market or inbound market. This is our challenge. So how we can make right? Of course, during this COVID-19, we should take advantage of it, because we have no other solutions. We would like to encourage all our operators, all the travel agents, including a homestay, tour guides, the hotels, everything. Let us sit down together and work together on how we can make it a very peaceful ecosystem so that everybody can win. So I think domestic market is very important, and as you know that last 2 years, in 2018, domestic tourists rose up to 11%, up to more than 11%, to 60 billions of income, and average per capita expenditure increased roughly estimate about 0.7% to 772 ringgit compared to lower than in 2017. So the trend has been increasing, but unfortunately, because of this COVID, of course, we have to reset. We have to make sure that how can we still promote domestic tourism, how we can encourage our rakyat to go for domestic destinations, but we have to change. So I would like to encourage all our operators to have this mind shift. All right, focus on domestic. Of course.
Mr. Zaidi, they don't have a choice.
Right, yeah. Yes, rightly pointed out, yes.
Domestic. So I think it's very interesting for us. It's a very interesting journey for us, especially in Mita, where our focus, our priority is to encourage domestic tourism and bringing in foreign tourists to Malaysia. You see.
Fantastic. You rightly said every operator was pretty much into outbound or inbound. I think maybe because of the margin benefits or whatsoever. I think everyone is getting a chance to venture into the domestic market at this point of time. Let me go back to Dr. Nico. Tell us a bit about Genting's presence in digital landscape as a destination.
Okay, so, well, in terms of digital landscape, I mean, you could look at it from two ways. One is our ability to target those group of customers online using digital channels to engage with us, how we tell our stories, how we engage them, and then how do we do the final transaction, which is the booking, right? So basically, we, like any other property in the world, we have set that one. We have the basics. We have, everybody said have a Facebook account. Then we have a Facebook account. So in terms of the landscape, I think we're pretty much set up. However, in terms of Genting, the majority of the digital per se, really, the magic happens really, is the actual experience of the customers when they're there. Because we believe that if the customer experience is good, then your marketing really are the people telling in social media, right? If we focus all our efforts in simplifying, making it more convenient for people, having that wow factor when they visit, and travel is no longer just accommodations. It's what are they really buying, right? They're buying an experience. They're buying the ability to forget their problems, right? Why do we go for a travel? Because we want to forget our reality at some point, right? Every day I think about bills, to be honest. And when I do my travel, it's an escape for me. Therefore, if I am able to do that at a place where it's convenient, all the things that I want is in one place, right? Then it becomes some sort of a memory, right? It's a creation of that memory. I always say to my team that beyond the digital landscape, what is that story that we tell them, right? And to me, it's simple. It's about creating memories. Genting's purpose is to help you create memories, wonderful memories, right? With you and your family and friends. And to me, that's the bulk of the discussion about digital, because I think everybody now who's trying digital, because it's their first time exposing to it, they focus too much on the tools. Yeah. Not so much on the adoption of it, because digital transformation is not about tools. It's about the mindset, thinking about how digital is simplifying your life, automating things, right? If you could, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of our listeners right now have this experience at work. You send out an email and then you WhatsApp your boss and say, boss, I've sent you an email. Why would you do that, right? It's like double confirmation already. Like, it's as if the email does not exist because you WhatsApp them, and the boss says, why are you WhatsApping me? Wait for my reply, right? That alone, to me, has not yet come to the stage of digital transformation. They're in the progress of, because they're treating it like a tool, right? And then the response of people would most likely be, but boss, I need to email you just for documentation purposes. But isn't the WhatsApp a documentation purpose already? The purpose of that, you've already documented it. Then how come we could not accept that as an official document, right? Still email, but that's the same person. So, there's a lot of things going on in the digital space. I think my what I could share with you is that Genting is at a place where we have it. Whatever the industry has, we have it, right? Because our goal is to make sure that every guest visit or visitation to the resort is hopefully good, is hopefully fantastic, that they are more than willing to market us on our behalf. So to me, that's where the landscape is. To me, the landscape is two-pronged: the tools and what do we do with the tools, right? So yeah.
Fantastic, Dr. Nico. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you have said is absolutely right, because what you need is digital mindset. Yeah, that's very true. All right. So let me go back to Zaidi. So the entire industry is actually in a panic mode, and everyone is looking for, some kind of possible supports and bailouts and stuff like that. So what is your advice to the operators to face the future? Like, what is your advice?
Well, I don't have the right advice. It's probably just sharing my opinions. As you know that nobody has perfect solutions for this COVID-19. Even if we have not discovered the vaccine. There are thousands or millions of scientists, good scientists, but they have not discovered COVID-19. So nobody is in a perfect mode or whatever, how to counter this COVID-19. But again, as I did mention earlier, disruptions. We're talking about disruptions. Disruption is not the first time. Tourism industry, it is not the first time that we are facing disruption. We have so many disruptions. If you're talking like Dr. Nico said, digital, all right, digitalization. If you talk digital, if you just pronounce digital to travel agents in Malaysia, it's like a nightmare for us, travel agents. We are no longer exist in digital world because we are middlemen. A lot of us consider as we are middlemen. Hotels like Genting, they go direct to the what they call OTA. They go direct to the manager. They don't go through travel agents, local travel agents, because it's very hassles. And they're practicing dynamic pricing modes. So it's quite messy for them to give contract rates anymore. I think contract rate is the past. It's a past. So these are actually, how are we local tour operators, would like to include in this scenario, in this business environment, whereas we are no longer have this preferred rates from the hotels. We are no longer have a preferred inventory from the hotels. We have to check now and then. I say, Dr. Nico, how many rooms can I have? 20 rooms today? How much is it? So it keep on. So it's actually a manual. So digital disruption is actually a nightmare to us. But again, we have to move on. As you know, we have seen a lot of companies went bankrupt. Kodak, for example, Kodak. I know PC. I know you know Kodak. I used to have so many films already. Kodak, everything. We are there now. And as you know that even Nokia, even to the extent Nokia and everything. So, but again, we have to go on forward. When 7-Eleven came to our neighborhood, a lot of these pakcik kedai kedai mama, I say, wow, this 7-Eleven kacau daun lah. This is really a disruption to them. But they still exist. So this is what time for us to reinvention our mindset, to see how can we serve our business And as you know, our best practice inbound or domestic operators are in Sabah. I salute them because Sabah, they really focus on domestic and inbound. We're talking about inbound operators. There are more Sabah in Sabah than in any other place. So I would like to encourage more and more inbound operators by having this, going to digital. PC, I use this GoToWebinar. 13 years ago, we trying this. I think I believe this platform is a time saver, and a lot of you can maximize or productive. But not many people are willing to adopt it. 13 years ago, we are lucky because the tourism ministry is adapting well. In fact, I had 7-8 years ago with Dr. Musa, who was in the director of domestic tourism. We had a series of the engagement on webinar. But now we are forced to. I can see a lot of webinar, a lot of players, a lot of tools. GoToWebinar, Zoom, or all this Facebook Live. So we are forced to. I agree with Dr. Nico. We are forced to. I think this is good. So the first thing is we need to reinvent our mindset. And secondly, no longer the old products sellable. We have to think what products, especially the experience. We need to go into the experience because tourists comes to experience. What kind of experience we can offer? So there's so many. You look around here, look around Malaysia, look around in front of our house. There's so many experiences we can share. Even in our kitchen, we can share how to do ketupat. We can share how to do rendang. We can share a lot of things with our guests overseas, our domestic or foreign tourists, with our hospitality and everything. So the digital experience, or we call it online experience, is the way to go. I hope everybody go move it. Collaborate with the upselling for the real packages, domestic packages. I think this is new world where our competitors, our big competitors, they're having zero business. We also small operators, small players having zero business. So zero. So it's about time for us. Who is creative? Who has a more audience? Who has a better understanding on the new concept, a new world? We cannot be seen as doing business as the old style. We have to do it in the new way, new style. There's no way we're going to do the previous what I call it earlier COVID method, which I think that's the main message. How? It's up to us to think about it. Thank you.
Absolutely, that's a very important point, Mr. Uzaidi. I mean, I've personally, Dr.
Sorry, PC. I just like to add to what Mr. Uzaidi said. He has spoken a lot of truth there, right? In terms of the world has changed. It's not, and then a lot of people are scared. We are scared when things happen. Human beings, we're afraid to change. We always go back to what is comfortable, right? But again, today we are forced to face reality. Is either you survive or you change industry, right? And for those of you who are retaining in the travel industry or tourism industry, I think the message there that Mr. Zaidi is saying is that, it's not so much about being afraid of it, accept it, because it can do more good to you if you just open up to it. Because at the end of the day, I guess it's not so much about making money on what you used to know, like the bookings. Like he's correct. Dynamic pricing changed the game. Why would I give you a fixed rate when I could charge more for the same type of room, right? On specific dates where there is demand. Why would I give that at a flat rate to a certain group of people? Now, if that is where the inventory or the property owners are heading, then the question would be, how then do you evolve your business to figure out a way how to make money elsewhere? Because at the end of the day, not everything could be solved by one company. We are an ecosystem at the end of the day. We just need to figure out what makes sense to our business. So I saw one of the comments, somebody said, does travel agent still relevant today? I'll tell you now, yes. Why? Because what is the purpose of a travel agent? It's to help me facilitate travel. There's a lot of people, young people right now, whose first time traveling, they need help. They would find value to a travel agent as opposed to an expert traveler who, FIT, right? I don't need your help. Don't talk to me. I can book everything by myself. That's a more mature market. And as human beings, more mature market, you must have a new market coming in. So you have to decide as a business, which market should I go into? Should I focus more on the new market where I'm an expert of, where my existing business model really can help thrive because I don't need to change a lot? Or you take a risk and say, I want to target a new market and my facilities, my infrastructure does not cater to that, then to me that's more of a gun putting at your head lah. So slowly change it, but don't be afraid of it. I guess I like Mr. Zaidi's points. He spoke true. He said, you have to face it, because at the end of the day, all of us have a place. It's not so much of what we are now. It's so much of what we could be after this pandemic. So you have to start thinking, what is the new me after this pandemic, and can I sustain it as a business owner? Yeah. So yeah, just to add.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Nico. And I think it's getting very interesting. And personally, I feel like travel operators are they need to be more creative. I think they are not very creative at this point of time. I hope this circumstances is putting them into become more creative. I believe, So all right. So let me take up one question I've seen from the audience. So Kapil is asking, how do you reach out to fellow Malaysians and encourage domestic tourism via digital means? I think Dr. Nico can answer this.
Oh, okay. Well, it's so that's the beauty about digital marketing or digital tools, right? Because it's available to everybody. I always say that the greatest neutralizer in the history of media is digital. Why? Because we have skipped this thing called media agencies. In the past, you have to go through a middleman to buy media, right? I want to buy TV, go to a media agency. I want to buy radio, because these are the available channels. And we don't know as brand owners how much does it really cost, correct? Now, digital, what Google did was he opened up the platform. It's a bidding model. Anyone who bids will have equal opportunity to show their advertising. That's very powerful, because it gives small and medium scale businesses the opportunity to target the exact same customer that the big companies was the only one dominating in the past, right? As long as you have a marketing budget, you can, target the group of people that you want to target. Now, the question is, do you even know who you want to target, right? Because digital can always be used. Let's say, for example, you use social media like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. All of these platforms have advertising platforms. They're going to ask you to pay, obviously, right? But every business, you need to pay for something, right? There's no free meal at the end of the day. All those zero fares, trust me, there are fares. There are something must give in. If you produce something, you have to consume it. And when you consume, you have to do something to consume it, right? So it's an exchange of value. So at the end of the day, when you engage with digital means, right? And there's a lot of ways to do it. You could do advertising. You could do organic social media posting, influencers. Just treat them like, sources of traffic. But the biggest question really is, who do you target? Because if you do not know how from the very beginning, you're just going to waste your advertising or your marketing dollars. There's no point in targeting in the dark, right? The beauty and the promise of digital marketing and advertising is really about targeting data. Google, Facebook, everybody's collecting data. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you in the listener, yeah, when you buy a new iPhone, you're so excited, you just accept all the terms and conditions, right? Without reading it. You don't know how you're selling your soul in your house, but then again, why are you doing that? That's a data collection in time, right? We are allowing them to collect data. Therefore, all we need to do is tap into that data and know who we want. So again, my advice would be start first with your customers. Who do you want to target, right? If you know who they are, you know how to talk to them, then use digital channels to reach them. Malaysia has one of the highest penetration rate of internet, and you guys don't have typhoons here. In the Philippines, where I came from, we have half of the year typhoon, like we always get swept out by the ocean, monsoon la. You guys don't have earthquakes. You guys don't have typhoons. Therefore, your infrastructure is good. So why not use it? Yeah. So yeah.
Right.
That's how you reach, if you ask me, generally.
Very valid. Yeah, it's a very valid point. Yeah.
It's very interesting question. Very interesting question. If you ask travel agents, what are you doing on digital, and they have blank minds. You see, a lot of us, in fact, all of us have a Facebook. They have a Facebook page. They have a Facebook personal accounts, and they have thousands. Some of them have 5,000. There's some of them more than 10,000 on Facebook page. I ask them, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? Have you engaged during this COVID-19? No. Have you even asked them, these 19,000 fans or of your page, how are we going to serve you during this COVID? No. So they have not engaged with the right in front of the customers. In fact, most of our agents, they have a lot of database, but they have not used the database wisely. There's a saying here that, to get a new customer is very expensive. To maintain the customer is cheaper. Isn't it better for you to maintain the customer, to have a bit repeat buyers, repeat buyers, rather than to have a new customer, keep on having these new customers, new tourists, new clients? It's more expensive. So you have it right in your mind, right in your eyes. So I believe that travel agents are still relevant if you have the right way, the right method, right strategy, in terms of data mining, your database. Try to maximize, try to leverage it, try to upsell or cross-selling of whatever products that you have now during COVID. While don't wait and sit. Don't sit and wait until the COVID everything is okay. It's going to be 2 years, guys. It's going to be 2 years. Don't expect. Yeah. So don't just wait and complain. Government don't give this. Government don't give that. Government don't help me. Please, government, please help me. No, start doing it at yourself, at your home. Well, how can we penetrate the clients? How can we serve our clients? I think it's very important. Through digital is the way to go. Thank you, PC.
Fantastic. I think it's rightly said. I think it's high time travel agents should start taking steps to go digital. So let me ask Mr. Zaidi a question like, does Malaysia has a competitive edge on domestic tourism product compared to the neighbors, in terms of variety, pricing? What do you think?
Well, as you know that every races in Asia, they have here in Malaysia. You name it, Indian, Chinese, Malay, or Jawa, or Filipino, or Vietnamese, all are here in Malaysia. So that's why we have this slogan. The old slogan is very powerful. So right in front of our eyes, we have so many products. But again here, the ecosystem must be correct. The ecosystem must be correct so that everybody knows the role. Travel agents, these are the rules. Tour operators, these are the rules. DMC, these are the rules. Tour guides, these are the rules. Local hosts, these are the role. And hotels, these are the role. Homestay, everybody has his own role. And I hope that with this COVID, we can sit down, be on the same page, on the same table, can talk and discuss, and we support each other. And domestic products, we have so many domestic. You name it, PC. You name it. You said. We have a river, we have the oldest jungle in the world, we have fantastic Genting, we have so many islands, the Redang and everything, you name it. We have everything here, but we don't, to focus it, we need to find a way. In fact, right in front of our house, we have something, the gardens, the green gardens, what you call in my house near Ampang, that's what I call Kemensa. There's a Kemensa. It's about 15 minutes away from KLCC. There's a waterfall, there's a river stream. You can even dine in the river itself. It's only about 15 minutes away from KLCC. So we have so many. We are blessed to have so many. So, but the only thing is we need to be all in together. Do not undercut each other. That's our problem. We need, sometimes we want to go in shortcut. We undercut. We undercut our island hopping. If you look into Pantai Cenang, every vendor has different price. Keep on slashing. Hey, come on, guys. I mean, our island hopping is one of the cheapest in ASEAN. If you go to Bali, look at the island hopping. If you go to Phuket, look at the island hopping. How much it cost in US dollar? So here in Cenang, the number one island resort here in Malaysia, look at the price. It's ridiculous, low. So please, with this COVID, let us change. Let us not just undercut each other. Let us think how we can value edit our products. We can make sure that our delivery service is fantastic. That's why we have to need to upskill. This is time for us to upskill our service. Our skill. There's plenty of government assistance to upskill our service. So take advantage of it, and this is the time for us to think and to upskill our service. Thank you, Busy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zaidi. I think it's a very valid point. I think every one of us should take care of to develop product among our region. I mean, our city, our state. Then it will have a lot of fantastic tourism products for domestic market.
Yeah.
I have a very interesting question to Dr. Nico. Majority of all the technology platforms connect product with the end user. So where do you see the future of online B2B companies in the current scenario?
Oh, okay. It's similar to everybody else. I think they will evolve in a way where they will figure out their role in terms of the value stream, right? If in the past we're B2B, having digital might give the business owner, some thoughts around, why don't I do B2B to C, right? Or B2C to B? I don't know, right? Those are all models. You have to figure out again. But at the end of the day, rather focus on that, ask the basic question, where is my money coming from really? When people buy my product or services, what do they really buy? If you have an answer for that, you build your model around that. Yeah. So like what Mr. Ozaidi said, in the island hopping, rather than focus on experience, improving it, everybody focus on price, price war. It's like the telco business, right? Everything is a price war. How much can you really cut your prices, right? It can never be zero, right? Because zero meaning no business lah. So rather than cut prices, focus on experience, because again, people buy experiences at the end of the day. They may say price, but if you are managed to justify to the buyer, like for example, why would you buy, a Louis Vuitton bag versus a regular bag? If it's the same bag without a brand, you would have paid 100 ringgit. But if you say, oh, it's Louis Vuitton, right? They will say, oh, I'm more than willing to pay 1,000 ringgit. That's X% increase, And to me, Louis Vuitton just did an excellent job in crafting that experience, right? From the moment you buy. So if you apply that to the tourism industry, it should be even better, because that's what we sell. It's an experience. It's not a product that you consume, right? It's the totality from the moment I book, the moment I find information, the moment I engage with your agent, right? The moment I pick up the phone for the call center, right? The experience must be good, because that's the first step that the person is deciding to escape, you see? I want to escape my reality, but now you're reminding me to go back to my reality instead, right? If you think about it. So us in the tourism industry, we must be able to figure out a way not to, rather than look at price points, look at overall product in itself, right? And B2B, B2C, B2B2C, B2C2B, no matter what combination that is, before you even change that, figure out where is the money coming from. The moment you know that answer, then put all your efforts there. Trust me, you're going to survive. Don't lose track. You're just one person, you see.
That's a very good point. I think, yeah.
The way you say it sounds so dirty, especially the B2B. The B2B sounds so dirty. But dirty.
Yeah, because I think you're right. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm a B2B business right now, let's take an example. Maybe in the past, my business is B2B. I only sell, I'm a middleman, I sell to B2B as well. But then I realized that this middleman is no longer valid. Why would it stop me from going direct to the end user who's actually paying the middleman fees, right? So if I'm that business owner, I'll say, well, I cut off the middleman, I go direct as well, lower down my pricing so that I could give that back to the end user, which I would have given to the other, businesses. That would make me survive in the next few years, right? But there's also a place for B2B, because I truly believe that every single group of players, right, has a function and a role. Unless everybody decides that it is no longer a function and a role, which I don't think so. It doesn't happen overnight. The question is, how fast are you to, adapt to the changes? Like what Mr. Ozaidi said, adapt now or die.
Absolutely true. I mean, I think there's some serious branding guidelines. I mean, not guidelines in terms of knowledge from Dr. Nico. I think anyone have more questions, probably you can DM him or something.
We're not gonna end tonight. I'm just gonna end. The trick with the top, you see, is stopping me from talking.
All right. So I could see Steven is giving a very relevant comment here. He's saying that travel agents will not be irrelevant. Always will have clients. Just have to find a new ways to draw the customers in. Digital marketing helps give them exposure. So yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. I think
it goes back to the product, right? He said, if your product is lousy, why would I buy it? Right? So focus on the product. Digital is just there for you to reach those people. But if your product is lousy at the very beginning, then don't sell. Figure out how to improve it first. Because if you don't do that, then even me, I wouldn't buy it, right? There's a lot of options.
All right. So, Mr. Uzaidi, for the tour operators and travel agents audience, right, what are the collaborative opportunities you have for them from your association?
Well, under MITA, together with the Malaysian Productivity Corporation, MPC, we have this platform, we call it Tourism Productivity Nexus, to improve our productivity in tourism. For the past 4 weeks, we had organized quite a number of webinars. In fact, more than 20 webinars, almost every day webinars on how we can increase our service, how we can upscale, how we can increase our knowledge in terms of digital, in terms of new method, new style of marketing. And we also had a lot of speakers from the government side, especially the Bank Simpanan Nasional, from the banks, from SME Corps, from all these government sectors to assist. The objective is to assist the players. We also had in addition of webinars, we had recently we had our virtual summit, our first tourism virtual summit, where roughly about 2,200 operators came online, log in online. And I was surprised there's so many homestays operators. A few months ago, or a few weeks ago, they never imagined that they are going to attend the virtual summit. Where now, during this COVID time, a lot of operators, a lot of homestay operators, tour guides, and everything, log into this summit, virtual summit, which was officiated by the Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Hajah Nancy Shukri, our minister of Tourism, where there's a lot of feedbacks, a lot of suggestion, everything, a lot of engagement going on. I think we had this summarize it to 5R. Reset tourism on 5R. What is the 5R? You can see, you can check it out in the Tourism Productivity Nexus Facebook. Reset all the marketing wise, the regulations in terms of the what they call the products. There's a 5R on it. Please everybody take a look at the Tourism Productivity Nexus page, Facebook page, TPN. And we also had recently we organized clinics, tourism TPN virtual advisory clinics, where our operators can have one-on-one advisory or consultations, because at the moment a lot of us blur. They don't know what to do next. We have 100 buses, we have thousands of buses. What to do next? Our buses are lying down, and our credit companies don't give any moratorium, where the bank has given the moratorium, but the credit companies not. So we have to negotiate with the credit companies. So these are the things that we need a lot of support. So the supports came from these tourism virtual advisory clinics. This is the first in the world that the government has taken initiative to set up these virtual clinics to help out the tourism players, to help out the tourism or they call stakeholders, so that they can survive. Of course, there are some casualties. There will be some casualties, of course, but we try to maximize the survivor during this COVID. And later on, we also have a lot of strategy, especially on the new products, the online experience. We had it last week. We had our first premier online experience, Farida, the tragic love of Farida, where we promote Miri. It's a piasau. It's about the hornbills birds in love. It's very interesting. We had a full house, and that is interesting products. I think we had to venture more and more online experience, where a lot of players, MBA, everything, they are now venturing those that kind of products, online experience. And we are talking a lot of talking with the MOA, talking with the Ministry of Agriculture and Education, just to integrate this online experience with our players, so that our players can start moving and start promoting Malaysia through digital with online experience. So I think there are a few of these initiatives. I hope all of us can be together. Doesn't matter whether you are homestay or tour guides or whatever, come in together. And I hope that the hotels like Genting, the big hotel Genting, a very cash-rich hotel, maybe you can support a little bit with all this initiative. So that we can be strong. We can be still strong and move forward. Thank you.
We will play our part.
All right. I think that's a lot of support is there from the association, and so I think people eventually should reach out to you to explore it further. All right, so there are a lot of product owners must be watching online. I have this question to Dr. Nico. What are the digital strategies you have to attract more domestic tourists as a product?
Data strategy?
Yeah,
sorry, sir.
What are the digital strategies?
Or digital strategies that we have?
Yeah.
Well, to us, in terms of digital, right, it goes back to what you can measure, what you could. It's data at the end of the day, right? The strategy is you start first with what you know, and digital, because of data, you could probably come up with some conclusions in terms of the majority, what they want, what they don't want. You just look at the review sites. It gives you a lot of insights what they tell you. Every customer who writes in a review site has this revenge mode, to say about the experience that they've had. If you think about it, majority of what you read in review sites are mostly negative. If you think about it, more often, right? We have positives, but we have a lot of those negatives. Why? It's an avenue for customers to say what they have experienced, right? Whether that experience is true to the majority or true only to that customer, we don't know. And sometimes it hurts a lot of small scale businesses because then it differ. Small and medium scale, especially small businesses, they don't have access to cash, as you mentioned, right? They don't have that resources, so they can only rely on their ability to market and their product. Now, if one bad review destroys that, because people now, they're smart, they have to review first. They're going to go online and say, is this property there or not, right? So, and then the first thing you read is a bad review, although it's not true, because sometimes it is not true. It's just that at that point in time, the customer, maybe he or she broke up with with the love of their life, and then they went there. Unfortunately, you're gonna feel everything is bad lah, right? Even though no matter 5-star, 10-star experience, because the personal experience is bad, you cannot control that. So, and what if the person reviews you, right? Then what do you do as a strategy, right? This is the sad part about digital. It helps you target people, but it also opens you up to a lot of these things that you cannot control, because the power has been given now to the consumer. The consumer can do whatever they want. They could choose, they could review you. But at the end of the day, you go back to what you know, right? So what do you know? One, I could use digital for targeting, ability to target my message to the right customer, tell them my value proposition. It has the ability for me to get feedback so that I could improve the services when they come back, right? And then lastly, once I'm able to expand my market, use digital to reach new markets, the markets that I couldn't reach before, right? Then the question is, how do I then make sure that they come and they transact, right? Because I need to secure the booking first. So part of the strategy is having a really good online booking system. Now, there's a lot out there. You can Google that for yourselves. I'm not here to recommend a platform, right? But a basic Google search will give you all those platforms. And again, there's no perfect system. Just take one, test it out, and if it works, it works. Then start using it. And you don't need to do everything all at the same time. That's the problem with new people using digital. They feel that they have to use everything at the same time. You don't. You just start with one and grow it. Put resources to it. And trust me, doing digital work, everybody keeps saying that it's an easy work. When I joined Genting before, trust me, about 4 or 5 years ago, almost 5 years, the first portfolio that I was managing was social media. And guess what were people telling me? Wow, your job's so easy, just do Facebook every day. I'm like, wow, that's not what I do. There's a misconception, right? But how do I market to this group of people who has real-time feedback to you? The moment you tell them my product is good, they will say, according to this review, you're bad. So how? If you're the product owner, how do you defend that, right? So again, it's not so much about the breadth of technology. It's so much about focusing on one and scaling it up when you have time and resources. Because in digital, there's no time element. You think, like right now, I think I'm working 24 hours lah. In my room, there's no clock. There's no clock. So the way I know that it's nighttime, I'm hungry already. As an example, right? So yeah. So those are my thoughts in terms of how do you really want to use digital as a strategy. At the end of the day, start with your business strategy, then treat digital as a tool to enhance, either to reach customers, to talk to customers, and the ability to secure the payment way in advance. Because in the past, the only way for you to get the money is when they're there. Digital allows you to get the money up front, even if they're not there. Yeah. So think along those lines. I'm pretty sure everybody will have their own strategy soon.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very valuable, strategies. And by the way, we are running short of time. We're almost, towards the end of our session. So can I have Mr. Uzadi to give your final thoughts?
Okay. Thank you. Time flies so fast. Who does this MCO? We had roughly about more than 4 weeks. So we should ask ourselves, what have we done? Are we just sitting around, sitting and termenung and doing all this imagination of all the negative things? Start depressing yourself, or we can do positive ways to proact, to be more proactive, to think, to pivot our offers, to pivot our products. Of course, this new normal require new skill, but this new skill can be learned through a lot of time. Our time, we have so much time. We can learn all these things through webinars, through PCs, webinars, through all these education's platform. So don't just wait there and complain, keep on complaining, saying that the government don't have this, don't have me, everything. So be more proactive. We have a big future. Together with our Minister, Yang Berhormat Dato' Sri Hajah Nancy, with her team, with the Deputy Minister, with the very aggressive KSU, TKSU, and also our experienced DG, Dato' Musa. He's well trained and well experienced. Let us all be together and think how we can leverage each other and to move forward. And I hope with this COVID, we learn something. We can reset our tourism industry to make it more better, to have better income in near future, and to have a better products. And we can become not only top 20 of the world, but top 10 of the destination. As you know, that domestic market is very important. Please focus domestic market. I just got this article from China saying that this long Labor Day, the 1st May, they had this 115 million trips, domestic trips. We think that it's like a revenge trip, but it's not. It is domestic market. This is domestic market. So I hope our rakyat, please help us. Please be more supportive on the tourism players, our local players, and our players, our friends. Please be more proactive so that we can be aggressive in terms of marketing domestic market. Thank you very much, PC.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Uzadi, for your advices and spending time with us. I think it's very valuable advice. I think all of us will definitely have a lot to take away from this. Can I have Dr. Nico's final thoughts on this?
Yeah. So I think on my side, it's the perfect time to reflect and to think about what really do you want for yourself. How do you want to contribute to your economy, to your country? This is not just about me or you, it's about everybody, right? Because if we don't think that way, then we're doomed from the very start. Because this pandemic, the unique thing about this pandemic, it's the social distancing part, right? It's the word social. Social means society, right? Therefore, it takes all of us to work together to get this thing behind us. And that's the only way for us to end it, right? And move forward. And because it forced us to look into the mirror, to face the facts that, hey, I'm not really as good as I think I was. Therefore, move forward, like Mr. Zaidi said. Don't sit down, move forward. You have a choice. Everybody has a choice. Choosing to move forward is a choice. Therefore, the only way to rally around this is to think there is a future. If the previous people survived the previous pandemics, we will survive. I'm pretty sure of that, right? It's just a matter of evolution and acceptance. And like I've said, in the domestic tourism, the last thing I could share with you is this. Some logical thinking around domestic tourism. If you still feel that it's not a market that will grow, so think about this and ask yourself, you have been stuck or locked down for a month and a half. Honestly, ask yourself, you don't even, people listening, yeah? Don't lie to yourself. Just tell yourself, how many times did you think of running away or trying to overcome the policy of MCO? Some of you, I really want to go out, right? There's no roadblock. some people say ways la roadblock. How come we're thinking like that? Because it is in our nature to go out. It is in our nature to travel, right? And believe it or not, if you go to Genting's Facebook page, every post we make, guaranteed minimum 100, 200 people will say, I miss Genting. I want to go out when this MCO ends. These are all locals, you see. Why? Why are they saying that? Because all of us would like to travel at some point in time. And because the market is stopping planes from coming inside your country, then the next big market is the 30 million Malaysians already in your house, in your country. They're just, you could reach them very, very fast because they don't have the resistance of flying over, right? So and don't you believe that every Malaysian is rich? You guys are rich. I'm poorer than you guys, I'm a Filipino. You know why? I always say that. You know why? Because for one, the currency exchange is 1:14. 1 ringgit is 14 peso. I always say for every 1 step of a Malaysian, it's 14 steps for me. That's how I put it. If you think about it, you are really at a really good place. You are blessed. To be honest, you guys are blessed. You just need to figure it out. Get your acts together. If I'm a non-Malaysian passionately talking about this, ask yourself, why are you not doing that for your own country, right? Be proud of it. So I guess my last thoughts are, it's really about, don't be afraid. Try things out. There's nothing wrong. We're already in the situation anyway. How worse could it be, right? And do the best with your time, because this will end. And when this ends, you better get ready, or else you'll be left behind. Yeah. So thank you, PC.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nico. I think it was very encouraging words. I think, yes, it is a very, very enlightening session for all of us to learn about digital and your experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I told you at the beginning that, there will be, I'll reveal the top 6 reasons for you to believe that domestic tourism will witness the strongest recovery. Let me start. The reason number 1 is the accessibility. It's domestic normalized before the international. So once the lockdown, travel restrictions will be lifted, the travel enthusiast will be interested in destination within the country. The reason number 2 is feeling of safety. After this crisis, people would feel safer in domestic travel. Trusted domestic hospitality brands like Genting will definitely on high demand. And reason number 3 is the confidence in capabilities. Malaysia is managing this COVID crisis very well on the medical grounds. As you all know that China's global TV network has listed the Health Minister Director General, Dr. Noor Hisham, as one of the world's top 3 doctors in handling the COVID-19. This has developed a lot of confidence about Malaysia and safety as a destination. The reason number 4 is international travel traffic divert to domestic destination. So those people who wanted to go international, the country they want to go is actually not safe yet, not ready to travel yet, so they will definitely move towards the domestic destinations. The reason number 5 is the offbeat locations will be in demand for forever. As the offbeat travel experience are become a phenomenon these days, and our country has a lot to offer, from mountains to beaches to islands to hills, waterfalls, nature, caves, whatnot, so which fits into every budget. That's the beauty of Malaysia. Malaysia is very, it's very affordable to travel. And the reason number 6, the last reason, not the last, but the reason number 6 is the regional travel hub as ASEAN. There are studies says that the inbound traffic towards China will eventually be diverted to ASEAN countries. As per survey, ASEAN region is one of the most potential to climb the ladder as a favorite destination for the world tourists. So all you need is, you need people who are committed to market these unique products. As they say, unless you don't try, you will never know. So I believe, guys, today's session was informative to all of you. Upcoming sessions will bring more other segments of the industry like MICE players, convention bureaus, and tourism departments, and online travel agents technologies. So, ladies and gentlemen, looking forward to see you again next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, PC. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. See you guys. All the best.